Good morning, live with Leisha.
Live with Carrie.
And we are here with Jerry McGuire in North Scottsdale at PuriFiLabs.
And this is the headquarters, isn't
This
it?
is the headquarters. Yes, it is.
Awesome.
We want to thank Jerry and his team. They were our title sponsor for the Need for Speed conference this year.
Yes, they were.
Yes.
So we're going to bring you some information about PuriFiLabs. Some of you guys have seen that I've installed it in my assisted living home. So we're going to go into some details. But first, Jerry, will you tell us a little bit about your experience and what you do at PuriFiLabs?
Yeah, I currently serve as the president of PuriFiLabs. I've spent most of my career in the air purification industry with one of the largest HVAC companies in the world, worked in their indoor air quality division. Across that journey, I came to learn, number one, how important air quality is, and about emerging technologies, one of those being PuriFiLabs, that can help us solve the air quality problems, and that's why I'm here with PuriFi now.
That's awesome. So if you guys navigate through PuriFiLabs.com, you'll see a lot of scientific information. And, you know, I think one of the things that you said to me, it's proof, not promises. So in this session here today, we're going to try to elaborate on exactly what PuriFiLabs does. If you want more information, you can go to PuriFiLabs.com. You can call 602-CLEAN-AIR. And again, down below, you'll find the Director of Customer Success, Stoughton. And again, we'll put her email and phone number directly so you can reach out directly to her. And I look forward to knowing so much more about PuriFiLabs and what it does for my facility, for my residents, for my staff, for anyone visiting. So we're really excited to give you more information to understand exactly what PuriFiLabs does. So I know that they started in 2014.
Yes.
And they are an international company. So they're not just headquartered in Phoenix. They're in Canada, Australia, Poland, Spain, the Middle East, Japan, yeah, so many other countries. Now, why are they expanding so fast? Because we need clean air. Now, many of you, like myself, or many of our residents, grew up in a smaller town where it wasn't so dense, it wasn't so industrial, so the air was cleaner. But now we live in Phoenix with a lot of desert and dust, and it has become very dense, and it will become more dense based on the statistics in the city growing. So clean air is very important. So what does PuriFiLabs do in our homes? Give me a brief overview of what PuriFiLabs does.
Primarily, we provide cleaner air. You know, cleaner air than most people have ever experienced. You know, even cleaner air than the highest mountaintops in the United States. You know, so take a look at the dashboard in our lobby here. I just pulled up on my phone multiple mountaintops, including Mount Everest. And the air quality where we sit right now is cleaner than the top of that mountain.
Can you smell that?
Oh, wow.
So, right, you know, it's crisp, it's fresh, it's clean, but we don't just make, to your point, a promise that we're going to deliver clean air. We deliver proof via data, via sensors that are deployed inside of people's homes or businesses, and that data is then made available on their devices so that they know that they have clean air. They're not just hoping.
So this is the process. So if you decide to go with PuriFiLabs in your home or your gym, as Carrie would say, or you know, a facility or a larger setting or even a hospital. You know, right now the air in this room is cleaner or as clean as an operating room, right?
Right.
Okay, so that is correct. So they have a device that is inserted inside of your air vent.
Yeah, in your HVAC system.
Okay, that's right, and that purifies the air.
Yeah, so what it does is it takes molecules that are in the air, it charges them and creates really long life ions. And those ions travel down the ductwork into the occupied space and they attack pollution at the source. One of the problems that we have with air quality is particles are so small, first we can't see them, then they never leave. The air conditioning system cannot suck all the particles out. So these charged particles, you know, agglomerate or make these particles stick together, get bigger, send them to that air filter so your air filter can do its job. Because most of the time, an air filter is only going to see something like 0.5% of the total pollution that we're exposed to all day, every day. With our technology, we supercharge that equation and shove it right back up to that filter so it can do its
Awesome.
job.
You know, it's interesting, most people go into their home and they say, oh, I clean my house every day, I dust, but they don't realize it's those tiny particles that cause the trouble.
Right. Yeah, by the time you can see it, it's bigger than anything that's going to harm you. You know,
So essentially, you guys are making the invisible visible.
Exactly right.
As your words.
That's right, exactly. So with the sensors, we make the invisible visible, but the dust that you see is way below anything that the CDC or the EPA talks about as being harmful to our health. So yeah, that's great. Let's go ahead and sweep those things up. But what we can't see are all these tiny things that continue to fly around the air, and we breathe them in, and we breathe in 2,000 to 3,000 gallons of air every day.
Wow.
So if that's polluted, then really you just might as well sip on a straw of pollution all day long.
Okay, so right now in my home, I'm at 0, you know, which is amazing. It was really, really, really high when I first installed it. And, you know, what are the things that trigger the air pollution? And I've been actually paying attention and getting more involved. And it's funny because my residents watch the number, because the sensor is a plug-in into the wall. So you
Right.
have, you know, you have your air filter that's in the HVAC system, and then you have the sensor that, you know, monitors the air and notifies. So the device is working while your AC is on or your heat is on, while the fan is on.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
And then if it gets to a certain number, the sensor triggers the fan to get turned on. Is that correct?
If it was ever off. Yeah.
If it was ever off,
So
correct.
it's like a particle thermostat.
Okay.
So you think about your thermostat and you set it for a certain temperature and you want it to be cool inside of your home. If it goes above, it gets too hot, it activates and it says, make me cool again. We do that with the pollution and the particles that are in the air. That's what that sensor does. So when the particles go up, it automatically activates air purification. So that way you don't have to worry about it. And that's key, because it's one thing to know that the air quality is terrible. It's another thing to do something about it. And this technology does something about it on your behalf.
Awesome. So one of the things that we're going to ask is what triggers and what creates pollution in your home. So some of the things that we had discussed earlier was cooking. You know, a lot of us love to cook, and I noticed my numbers go up a teensy bit, but I don't cook with gas in my home, and I once in a while I'll burn something. I'll be honest.
Right.
So that's really bad air quality when,
Yeah.
when you burn something. And then, you know, the plugins. I know that
The scented plug-in.
yeah, the scented plugins. I know that the air fresheners or plugins are not naturally good for us, and I know a lot of you will do a lot of natural oils, you know, to prevent that. But it's really hard in an assisted living home to keep a good smell, you know, if you're not using scented items, you know, cleaning solutions and plugins. So plugins is a very big pollution in your home. Is that correct?
Yeah, it absolutely can be. Obviously,
Okay.
there's different types, you
Sure.
know, there's different quality and all those sorts of things, but anything that's generating a particle going into the air is technically pollution. You know, whether it's an aerosol or it's a solid, the more pollution you have in the air, the more chance you have for transmission of things like viruses and bacteria on those particles that are in the air. So we just say, you know, let's try to get to 0 on our air quality index, on our PM 2.5 as much as we can. Those things will fight it.
Okay.
And anytime you smell an odor, that means particles and pollution are in the air.
So does PuriFiLabs help eliminate the odors?
It
Like
does.
if you have, you know, odors in your home in the mornings, you know, we open up the windows and we try to get the odors out and clean everything, get everything, you know, clean. So typically in an assisted living home in the mornings and then late in the evenings, you have stronger smells in the home, either from cooking or from other things. So you're telling me that PuriFiLabs helps eliminate the odors. And let's talk about, you know, the smell of urine.
Yeah.
A lot of times, you know, we'll walk into a home and someone just washed the floor with what is it?
Lysol.
No, it's not
Or
Lysol.
bleach.
No, it's that yellow. It's not the lavender, Pine Sol.
Pine
Sol.
Sol.
And so many times I've told you guys, don't use that yellow Pine Sol. It smells like urine when we walk in. It may smell fresh to you, but when we get it confused with the smell of urine.
Yeah.
So it's a really strong smell. And then sometimes, you know, with older adults who don't want to be woken up at night, you know, they want to sleep. When they wake up in the mornings, you know, their briefs can't always hold everything in. So you have that smell of urine. So you're telling me now, I was understanding that smells last for hours and pollution lasts for, you know, many hours in your home. So with PuriFi, you can, it can be eliminated sometimes within minutes.
Yeah, the particle, you have a certain decay rate, and all that means is particle gets into the air, how long does it take for it to get out of the air? That's accelerated significantly with PuriFi. It can be as fast as minutes. Some of those cooking scenarios, and I will say, the better you are at cooking, the less pollution you'll create, because, you know, I burn quesadillas or pancakes and you got a problem. All of a sudden your particles are all over the place. But odors are particles because they permeate the particles, so you'll smell it. We can neutralize those odors. Also, when the air is cleaner, you're going to have less odor staying in the air because there's no particles to stick to.
Okay.
So we can take care of it without trying to cover it with other smells.
Yes.
So let's just neutralize
So we're covering it with a lot of the sprays
With
and
the
everything
sprays
that
and
we're
everything
using.
else.
Right.
Okay.
You know, one of the things Lisa said, starting that conversation, is, oh, we open up the doors, we open up the windows to
Right.
bring in fresh air. But what we're realizing is we're not always bringing in fresh. We think it's fresh air,
Right.
but it's not the fresh air that we need.
Yeah. Fresh air is frequently a misnomer,
Okay.
you know, because it's really outside air. You don't know if it's fresh.
Because we live in Phoenix.
Yeah. Some places are fresher than others, but you don't know it's fresh unless you measure it. So one thing that people can do is they can pull out their phone and they can check their air quality index. Well, right now, the air quality index in Scottsdale, where we sit, this is a good day in Scottsdale. Usually it's 60, 70. Today it happens to be 40. Well, the air quality index in this room right now is 0.
Yeah.
So do I want to bring in more polluted air into my very purified clean air? No. You know, the math isn't good on that.
Right.
So it's all about measuring. Now, if your indoor environment is heavily polluted, you might want to open up those windows. If you look on your app and your air quality index is 20, open it up and let it ventilate. But what we see frequently with PuriFi is we are 5 to 7 times, sometimes 100 times cleaner than outdoor air when PuriFi is installed.
Okay, so let's get involved a little bit in some of the testing methods. So the CDC says that 3 microns and below are the most harmful to human health. Can you please elaborate?
Yeah, so micron is just a measurement. So think about inches and centimeters.
Okay.
We got to go smaller than that to measure these tiny particles, and they're measured in microns. Micron is 1/36,000th of an inch
Wow.
in diameter.
to bring that one,
Right.
okay.
So the smallest our eyes can see is 10 micron.
And those are the most harmful. Anything 3 or below is the most harmful. It's because
Correct.
we can't see it and it just...
We can't see it, and it goes past our body's defense systems.
Okay.
Our nose, our throat will sometimes catch and block things from getting into our lungs and bloodstream, not 3 micron and below. 3 micron and below stays in the air for a really long time. We breathe it in, goes into lungs and bloodstream, and it doesn't come back out. There's no method of getting those particles back out of your lungs and bloodstream.
Now, in assisted living homes, we're not governed under the CDC because we're non-medical assisted living homes, but we sure do take their recommendations seriously. So when they're saying something, we're paying attention. So how long do these particles last? And what is it, up to 41 hours?
Up to 41 hours, yeah. From 3 micron and below, it's 1.5 to 41 hours that they will stay in the air, even with your heating and air conditioning system on and an air filter installed. So sometimes people think, well, I'm just gonna have my HVAC system run, I'm gonna put a new filter in. Well, those particles are still staying in the room for 1.5 to 41 hours, going nowhere. So you can't just throw a filter in and think, okay, now things are better.
So it's not enough for me to change my filter every month?
No.
Okay.
You wanna do that.
Yes.
You wanna change it at the right time. But what we do is we supercharge your filter by sending, you know, multiple, you know, much more particulate to that filter so that it can capture it.
So then
Particle busters.
I know.
There you go.
So then PuriFiLabs can clean your air within minutes, not hours.
Yeah, to
Okay.
drive that pollution
That's
out of the
something
air.
that I like,
Yes,
very
yes,
much so.
yes.
Now,
Well, again, like you say, if you have a home, then and you're bringing in gas, you're bringing in tours. You always want that smell. It's like we don't want to be cooking cookies before the tour. We want to have that.
I like cooking cookies before my tours. I always do.
Well,
or
that's
cabbage
good.
rolls.
Yeah, yes. But again, you want them to come in and have that fresh smell.
What about food? Let's talk about food. So a lot of us that manage and run assisted living homes here in the state of Arizona are, you know, not born here. And, you know, some of us are Romanian, some of us are Filipino, some of us are from Jamaica, some of us are, you know, American, but, you know, our heritage is from somewhere. So we have all these ethnic foods. Filipino have different foods, Romanians, we all have different foods. And sometimes when we walk to the homes, we can smell where you're from because of the ethnic foods. And, you know, while we enjoy some of that, I know some of the residents don't like being forced to have that ethnicity pushed on them, or that culture of food pushed on them. So you got to be careful if you're cooking cabbage rolls or you're cooking rice, that's not a daily smell in your home, because they don't want to smell that in their clothes. Or, you know, it's like, oh, I went to go see my mom at the care home today. I could smell I was there, because the food penetrates their clothes. So with PuriFiLabs, it'll help eliminate some of these odors within minutes, to where your home doesn't smell like where you're from. It smells fresh and clean. And that's what we want, because we're taking care of people. So how does PuriFiLabs help as far as health? What are some of the concerns, the medical concerns with pollution in the air?
Yeah, well, you know, all you have to do is go to Google on your phone or whatever browser and type in particles and heart disease.
Okay.
And all kinds of articles will come up, not the least of which is from the EPA, major governing body in the United States. And what they'll say in there is that PM 2.5, so that's that 3 micron and below, or 2.5 micron and below particles. Some elevated exposure to that for hours or weeks can increase the risk of cardiovascular events or heart-related events. And they note, especially in people age 65 or older.
Which is what we take care of.
Yes.
Right.
So usually everyone is 65 and above. So if a resident has asthma, how does PuriFiLabs help? What is the air doing to them if they have asthma?
Yeah, so think about, again, these particles 3 micron and below. They're getting past our nose, past our throat, into our lungs. Now, asthma is a respiratory related condition.
Correct.
So I am triggering inflammation and issues inside of my lungs. It's a trigger. Particles are triggers. So you want to reduce the particles as much as you can to reduce the triggers of asthma related events. So the cleaner the air, the less triggers. And
so is it safe to say that a lot of older adults, you know, have a lot of heart related issues, and the air pollution triggers them or makes things worse?
According to the EPA, organizations like the American Lung Association, CDC, you know, they'll say yes.
Okay.
You know, it's interesting, kind of going back to what we said earlier, people come into their home and they think, oh, I've got a nice clean home. But again, it's what you can't see, it's killing you, because if that's been going on for years and years and years, and again, it looks clean, but again, all of a sudden you install the system and you've got that monitor that's saying, oh wow, before and now after, it would be a shock to people's system to know that their home wasn't as clean as they thought it was. That there's more particles floating around in the house than...
Yeah, I mean, how often do we dust here in Arizona? Like we dust and then all of a sudden there's dust again. And I'm not, you know, exaggerating in my cleanliness, you know, but it's about where we live. Now, I grew up in a totally different environment. Our environment here, how's the air quality in Arizona? What is it rated?
Well,
isn't it an F?
Yeah.
It's an F. So if you live in Arizona, don't tell me it's about you. It's not about you. It's about the environment around you. You can't change the air quality outside that much. You know, the density of Phoenix and the valley is growing, in Tucson, in the whole state. You know, a lot of people are, you know, during the pandemic, people were coming here on vacation. People were moving here from California. Yes, I know what you guys were. But we're getting more dense here, and the air quality is not great, and especially during these dust storms that we have. You know, close your windows, and you have PuriFi working for you to make sure you're breathing in clean air. So with it being an F and the seasons changing, there's so many of you that have problems with allergies. You know, and I know many of you personally around me, sneezing all the time, their nose is running all the time. So if you're in your home, and some people use humidifiers. You know, I've never used one, but from my understanding, they just create a more wet environment to where it's not dry, and it doesn't harm you as much, doesn't trigger you as much. But PuriFiLabs is not a masking. You know, it purifies your air.
Correct.
So if you have problems with allergies, which many of you do, how does PuriFiLabs help with that?
Yeah, again, it's a similar situation to the asthma. The particles, the pollution in the air are triggers for the allergies. So PM 2.5, we talked about those getting into the lungs and the bloodstream. Well, between 3 and 10, those get stuck in nose and throat.
Okay.
So if you have a seasonal allergy, the more particles you're going to get into your nose and throat, the more triggers. You know, again, we look at our PM 10, which is that 3 to 10 range, it's 0 inside of this room. You know, so you want those particle counts to be as low as you can possibly get them. And outdoors, that's not always going to be the case. So that's why we say, be careful about thinking opening the doors is just going to always help you. It could cause a problem.
Yeah.
But PuriFi gets those particles out of the air. The PM 2.5, lungs and bloodstream. The PM 10, nose and throat, helps eliminate those so you're breathing less triggers.
So PuriFiLabs is tested and proven, you know, to help clean your air. If you have a problem waking up in the morning and you feel congested because your allergies, you know, your eyes are always itchy and they're red, and you're increasing your allergy medication or your nasal sprays. I know people that excessively use their nasal sprays more than directed. You know, stop doing that. And just try PuriFiLabs. You know, that will definitely help you. I mean, and what's the best way to know than trying it out? PuriFiLabs is now affordable. You know, where you can pay monthly payments, and it is affordable to anyone, whether you're an assisted living home, whether you're an access home, a small home, whether you're an investor and have multiple homes, or whether you live at home, or you want your office environment. Kira, you tried PuriFiLabs years ago, right?
Yes, I did. So I had a gym in South Phoenix, and it was an older building, very, very old building. And as I did the construction and we were remodeling and getting ready for the gym to be open, there were smells that it stayed in there because of the oldness of the building. And so I reached out to Tim, and he said, hey, you know, I've got this PuriFi, this machine that will help eliminate the odors. And we're like, are you sure? Because the building's old. And I'd say within a month, you know, the people that were coming into the gym, they were like, wow, you know, what are you doing? It seems like it smells a lot better. You don't have that musty smells. Yeah. Which was good. And so, you know, I was a believer up front just to see, you know, what's going on and how it eliminates those odors. Because again, you know, especially I think when it would rain, I think the smells would come out more, you know, and especially in the summer, being humid. And so it'd be like, oh my goodness. And we, you know, once we installed PuriFi, we were able to eliminate the odors. So which was awesome.
That is really awesome, especially in gyms.
Yes. And that's one of the top happy feedback items that we get from customers. They love the proof and they love the odor neutralization. Both of those things. So they know their air is clean. They can smell that their air is clean. And that's one of the things that people say. They come in and they almost don't know how to describe it, because they smell and they go, your air smells so clean. And you don't hear that all the time.
Right,
you know, somebody's saying your air smells clean. But that's what we get on a regular basis, and that's what people love.
You know, we're still in our pandemic. Let's talk about the C word. So when we look at, we talk about particles. So now with COVID, I mean, we have places that we're still restricted in going. So with PuriFi, how does it help with COVID? Or is it, you know, with all the different testing that's been involved, how would you say it would play a part in helping to eliminate COVID in a building or in a room? Or
yeah, we've done extensive testing on the product first, and we always encourage anybody who is looking for a virus-specific treatment for their facility to always research. You know, so the first thing I would say, even separate from PuriFi, is find out how the technology was tested. This is a guide. We also have a guide on our website. So if people want a guide on how to evaluate air purification for things like SARS-CoV-2, then get on our website, download it. It's put together by a bunch of scientists, very helpful. just find out, how was the technology tested? And am I going to use it the same way? If the answer to those questions are one, they won't give me the test, or two, I saw it and I'm not going to use it the same way, it's probably not a good technology for you. You know, so one thing I'll say about PuriFi is we've tried to test in real world environments. So we went to a laboratory, a biosafety laboratory in California. We had them set up ductwork inside of the lab, just like you have inside of your home, an HVAC fan, just like you have inside your homes, and had it perform at the same rates as a ratio for that room as it would behave in people's homes. So we try to get as close to real world circumstances as we can. The laboratory reports are on our website, posted for everybody to read, and in 3 different tests on Delta, Omicron, and the original variant, they performed at 99.9% neutralization rate or more in less than 60 minutes under those specific conditions.
Less
Wow.
than 60 minutes.
Yeah.
So you have chemicals that can clean your surfaces, and then PuriFiLabs, you know, isn't it a higher rate? Weren't the chemicals like, no, they were 99.9,
Yeah.
right? So the same thing as like spraying bleach or Lysol on your surfaces. It's like using PuriFiLabs in the air.
But
Yeah.
that's catching it
Similar.
coming in the air particles. So
And it's
that's amazing.
neutralization.
It's neutralization too. Yeah.
So it's not just removing them from the room, it's neutralizing them at the source. And that's what that laboratory test was measured for. So are we neutralizing the particles in the air, the virus particles, SARS-CoV-2? And that's how the test was performed.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So many of us are trying to do our due diligence to prevent COVID-19 from entering your home. We're in flu season, so we're trying to prevent flu. So when we have someone walk in the home with the sniffles, get out, you know, or wear your mask. So we do screenings. You know, have you been exposed to anyone? We're still doing screenings for that. You know, do you have any symptoms of COVID-19? If you do, don't enter. And sometimes, you know, we still have nurses that we catch with their ear, or someone, or family members, and we hear the sniffles. Sometimes it's allergies. So we don't really know what's in the air, but if they sneeze and they cough, that stays in the air, right? Those are the up to 41 hours.
Yeah.
So if someone brings a bacteria or a virus into your home right now, we want to eliminate flus. We want to eliminate COVID-19 from entering into our homes. We want to be preventative to prevent pneumonia. We want to do all of that for our residents. Now, if we have an option to eliminate these bacteria and viruses in our air within minutes, then you should, and you could, because it is affordable. This is something that we're really, really pushing on. How many of your residents get the flu every year? You know, I got COVID twice, you know, during this pandemic. I don't want it anymore. Yes, I wasn't really symptomatic, but it feels like I still have struggles, you know, breathing afterwards. I don't want it. So, you know, we're trying to keep our older adults safe. And this is something that's affordable and something that many of you guys should look into. So again, if you're interested and you want more information, you can reach out to me, reach out to Carrie, and again, you can reach out to the Director of Customer Success, Kara. We'll put her information down below. You can visit the website, www.PuriFiLabs.com, or you can call 602 Clean Air. You have to try it for yourself. It is amazing. I love it. My residents, every time someone sneezes in my home, they look at my sensor to see if it went up. It is hilarious, but it's fun, you know, for the residents, because they get to monitor how clean it is for their environment.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you, every time my family's coming, they go straight to that sensor. You know, just curious to see what the air is, and we're at 0. So it's really awesome to monitor, and I can monitor it from my app, so I can see what triggers. So again, if you want more information, reach out to most of us here or online or down below. And again, thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to hearing more stories from you. Thank you so much.